welcome to I'm Not a Fan Unless I Have a Podcast. I'm John Hanford, and I'm on a road trip. I'm, I guess at the time of this episode being released, I'm in Yellowstone, just on vacation with a couple different friends. With my best friend and his girlfriend. I'm totally third wheeling this, but it's gonna be a blast. It is a blast. I'm in Yellowstone now, right? But after Yellowstone, we're gonna be going up or going down into Salt Lake City area, and then over across Oregon and drive up the Oregon coast, hit up those dunes, And so that's going to be this whole trip is going to be about 10 days. I'll be returning, I think on August 11th, but still putting out new episodes, while I'm on the road. I've got them scheduled beforehand. So, this intro and the following two intros are both recorded on July 31st. So that's why I've got to be looking the same. Anyway, my guest today is not a fan of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, but he is he's one of my best friends, if not my best friend. And we've known each other for about 12 years now. We started as roommates, just randomly assigned roommates in the summer New York City student housing program. We've just been pretty tight. We got to know each other then, and then went our separate ways for a little while. We were in college in different places, and who knows? But then we both ended up back in New York City and started hanging out again. And we're really, really tight. He's also a comedian, so so he's my writing partner. So this is fun. I wanted to bring him on because I've been looking for ways to sort of change up how I do this podcast. It not that it's necessarily gotten stale, but I don't want it to get stale. So this is sort of like a preemptive measure, I guess. Because here's the thing: as a Giz fan, you definitely have friends that cannot get into the band. And it blows your mind that they're so close-minded to it, or maybe that they even do listen to the music and it's they just don't get it. It's just not up their alley at all. But yeah, so I decided to bring my best friend, who is that, on here, and he's I'm basically just roasting me the entire time. And this is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved how this episode went, because it's just so much different from how every other episode has gone. And it's also been it was also fun just doing, getting to work with my best friend again. I love that shit. So and there hasn't been enough of that in in quarantine, outside of just us bouncing ideas off each other and having bi-weekly Zoom calls. It needs a little more. This was a nice sort of way to perform, I guess, since stand-up is not coming back anytime soon. But stand-up in clubs, there are outdoor shows and those are fine, but they're also pretty few and far between. So I've not been able to. I've not been invited to perform on an outdoor show yet. But anyway, we're just gonna get right into this episode. This is my best friend Akshay. Check him out.
In all our Zoom calls, when with Devin and Christy, and just when it's us, it's always you're not coming through, and it's always on your end.
Yeah, well, it's tough shit. That's that's just how I operate. It's it's usually rough in the early going, and then
didn't you go to school? Didn't you work in music production and radio, or am I making that up?
No, I worked in radio, but it was journalism. And even though I did host an alternative music show on the radio station, but it was I mean, like the mic breaks were maybe 15 seconds, like clearly not suited for somebody as long-winded as me. So I left terrestrial and decided to go full podcast because.
Well, suffice to say, any music that you were playing at the alternative music radio station was likely better than King Gizzard.
You're such a cunt, Akshay.
Language.
Hey, look, there's no holds barred. But in any case, I did play a lot of music, and it was good. I like more, a lot of music other than just Giz.
How does it compare to King Gizzard? Would be my first question.
It doesn't. It's a totally different thing. I mean, like a lot of
good.
No, it's like nostalgic, whereas Giz is something that's like you're looking to the future and like there's a whole bunch of there's a fantasy element to it, which is cool. And like because after a while it gets kind of annoying, it gets boring to like keep listening to the same songs that were like popular 20 years ago, or I guess 30 years ago now. So like Nirvana got kind of overplayed for me. I mean, I still like them, but there's nothing left to imagine really.
Well, and Nirvana is not. I wouldn't say Nirvana is that old, but
they're. I
can understand how they were
ended 26 years ago.
To your youth, but
right. I mean, so that was the thing. Like they became my favorite band about 8 years after 8 years after Kurt Cobain, committed suicide. But I mean,
was it rough when you found out? Was it rough when you found out that he?
No, I learned it like in the same sentence of, "Hey, check out Smells Like Teen Spirit." It was like I heard the song. I was like, "Yeah, this is cool. I've definitely heard it before." What's the band? Nirvana. They don't exist anymore because the guy killed himself. That was my foray into Nirvana, but it didn't stop me. I got really into it.
This is like it's so strange because I guess for those listening, I grew up in India, and 12th grade was when I actually got into Nirvana. So that would have been 2006 maybe. So that's pretty late. And I was also getting into a show called News Radio. I don't know if people know about that show. Joe Rogan was in it, so that's sort of its current claim to fame. But Phil Hartman was also in it.
Oh shit.
And I guess for those that don't know, Phil Hartman had a fairly tragic death. So for about like 4 or 5 months, I was really into Nirvana and this show News Radio. And then I just happened to like Google both of them the same week and found out that both Kurt Cobain and Phil Hartman were dead. And it was actually like, I actually had to process like remorse and trauma, even though the deaths happened like, like 10, 15 years I don't know how many years previously. I was just like, wow, that really sucks. Like, and like I was upset, and like, I took a couple of days off school probably.
So what was your reaction to hearing the news of John Lennon?
I think I always knew, I think it's the John Lennon glasses. He's got like the Gandhi glasses. So I just always assumed that he was otherworldly. Like in India, Gandhi is like a I still find it like a mind fuck that Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr are alive and walk amongst us. And so it actually makes more sense to me that John Lennon is dead, it's crazy that Paul McCartney is still alive, so, and that he is still putting out music, which is much better than King Gizzard. Even
dude, no, not a chance. I was just about
his non-Beatles career, even like his most recent stuff, like wow.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck you, dude. Like his most recent stuff, Egypt Station, that came out like 2017. Which, by the way, King Gizzard released 5 albums in 2017 alone. Paul McCartney only one.
That explains why they're so bad, to be honest.
Except. I mean, like each album is absolutely incredible. So,
disagree.
Oh God, you see, like if we're just gonna argue like this for the whole episode, it's not gonna make for a good podcast. Because and like you're a rational person. We're best friends for a reason. There's a you know, at least in my opinion, there's
We're best friends in your opinion. Yeah. I agree with that statement. You are entitled to your opinion on that one. Yeah.
But no, but God damn it, I totally lost where I was going with that. Can you remind me of the first half
Well,
of
you
that
always
sentence?
like we can't just. It's not going to make it for a good podcast. If we
Right,
just,
right,
I
okay.
mean, I can
So
get into what my gripe is or like what I'm
yeah,
trolling.
well,
But
here's the thing. I know you're a rational person, and there has to be some Giz track that resonated with you a little bit that you like. And you know, look, I know this is a two-way street because you also want me to get into the Grateful Dead and Dead and Company, especially because John Mayer is incredible.
yes, he is.
And actually, you know, for those listening at home, Akshay and I have been, and I've mentioned this in the intro, but like you know, we were roommates 12 years ago, and you know, like I was just out of high school, you were just you know, going into junior year of college, and you were just obsessed with John Mayer, and not because he was a pop star. You were just like, no, he's a really, really good guitarist, and and I just got to say, I think the same is true of Joey Walker of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. You really gotta
Yeah, I
check
mean,
his shit out.
listen, okay. I will grant you that I can't argue that the musicians, I don't know any of their names, which is about as much space I'm willing to hold for them, quite frankly.
Oh my God, you're such an asshole.
But I don't know any of their names, but you obviously have tried to get me to listen to some tracks, and I can tell that they're technically proficient. Like I can't argue that point. And I can even say, yeah,
You
the
mean you're
music is.
acknowledging that they have a shred of talent?
Oh no, well, I'm saying they're technically proficient. I don't know what talent is really, but
Oh, okay.
I can tell you like I play the guitar, I play the drums. I probably can play even like a 10% of what these guys are able to do, right?
I've heard
Uh,
you play. That's accurate.
thank you, thank you. You are entitled to your opinion. But I mean, I think John Mayer is a good example because you know the thing is he is technically proficient, but people don't know it. You know, it's like such level of like not trying to be pretentious and inaccessible, just trying to be good and captivate the mind, that like you don't even recognize that he's like really, really technically proficient. But when I listen to King Gizzard, I'm like even the name King Gizzard and the Izzard Wizard is like, guys, you are trying too hard for me to pay attention to, you know? Like
Well,
it's not even like in comparison to the Grateful Dead, I was like, huh. Like part of me is like, wow, that sounds softer, you know? But King Gizzard and the Izzard Wizard is like, guys, you're just coming at me too hard. Like it's just too much.
I mean, you know,
And
first of all, it's King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, which is a whole. I mean,
what did I say?
you said King Gizzard and the Izzard Wizard,
Yeah.
like Eddie Izzard.
You know what's crazy? I feel like my version of the name's better. So they got that wrong.
Oh God!
But yeah, okay. So I'll tell you.
But I mean, it's funny that you think they're pretentious.
Well,
But at the same time, I do acknowledge that could very well be just because I'm the one that introduced them to you.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Well, yes.
Here I am with my podcast and everything, just like yeah, it's a pretentious thing.
I will. So I will
Pretentious venture.
say, I'm open-minded to the idea that I just haven't found like I went through this with the Grateful Dead. It was like I was listening to it a lot and like none of it made sense. And then like one song just hits you and then like the entire thing opens. So I don't hold any space to remember their names or the name of the band, but I hold enough space for that may eventually happen. Right. I would say my number one gripe, and I experienced this like through like traveling through the Grateful Dead. Like when me and Richard went to go see Dead and Company.
Uh-huh.
Live. There was like some kid standing next to us. I don't know how old he is. He was like sub 30 maybe. And like he was just like a total bummer talking about how uh it's not that John Mayer's bad. It's just like, he's such a pop star and like he's just like diluting what the Grateful Dead. And I just the point that I try to make is that posers, they don't realize that they're posing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so people that are in, I 100% believe that there are people in the King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard world that say something like, "Oh, I'm into all types of music except country," and and they don't think they're posing when they say that, And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure people that have said that. I'm sure you probably have even said that phrase some point in your life
At
where
some point, and then I reversed course.
yes, but I'm just saying, anyone that says the phrase "I love all types of music except country" is such a poser and is so dying for like social proof and acceptance that they wrote off an entire genre of music that is what like the Americana sound and rock and roll is grounded on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I
That
guess
and blues.
this is my question to you. Like, if you're a poser and you're a King Gizzard fan, how self-aware are you that you're actually into the music and you're not just posing that like this band's got something like crazy going on, and so I'm gonna like start a podcast and like make it all about like how, like at what point, like what trappings of like genuine interest in the band do you have besides knowing their names?
I mean, everything. I mean, seriously, like I've listened to them. I think I listened to them for.
I'm going to give you why
two,
I think you're a poser as well. So you better think this answer through.
I mean, I find it interesting that poser is the word you would use to describe me. Your best friend, in your opinion, and mine.
I mean, you are wearing a bandana, so
that's just to keep the hair out of my eyes because I don't want to risk COVID getting a haircut.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
And this is a look that works. I mean, it's
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, lesbians are in. Anyway,
so but you would agree that people that say the phrase "I'm into all types of music except country," you would agree that they are lacking the self-awareness that they're just saying something for social proof. Would you agree with that phrase? That sentiment?
Mostly, yes.
Okay.
But the thing where I would say no is just that sometimes it's just easier to say that than to like actually have a whole philosophical, introspective discussion.
Okay, but what about this guy?
Where it's appropriate just to lie.
This guy at the Dead and Company concert, who's like literally at the concert saying like John Mayer's ruining the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, no, that guy's a dick.
Okay, so would you agree that I can sort of see the community aspect or between Grateful Dead and King Giz? Like, I can sort of see that they may attract the same type of person. So my question to you once again, like how self-aware are you, not you specifically, but that the fans that you come in contact with, not that there's anything wrong with posing. I mean, I think posing is like I bought a skateboard and I'm basically a poser in the skateboard world.
Yeah, I mean, because like
really,
the hat with the bill up is kind of a new thing in quarantine.
Well, actually, I don't want to get into it, but this hat has a deeper meaning than that.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, sorry, but you look like a douche. And
thank you, thank you.
No, but
so that's my question.
So my question to you, in order to answer your question, is what is your definition of posing?
Well, you're just not. My definition in it that you are doing things for social proof, not because you're really into it. But the bogey is that most people aren't aware.
Oh no, I'm definitely doing it for both. Number one, there's just the fact that I need an outlet to talk about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard that's not just my friends like you that don't really care to hear it.
And rightly so. If there's anyone listening out there that's not a fan of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, I'm starting a podcast. We're going to be a rival podcast.
The only person that's listening to this podcast that isn't a fan is somebody who is too stupid enough to realize that I'm not a fan unless I have a podcast. It's a whole joke, and like it doesn't even mean what they took it to mean.
Well, to be honest, I've listened to a couple of episodes just because I'm your friend, and
okay.
And I truly believe that your podcast is the only good content in the entire King Gizzard universe. everything else is so pretentious and inaccessible, but your podcast about King Gizzard is surprisingly good.
So let me get this straight. You're saying that my podcast about my favorite band is less pretentious than my favorite band.
I'm saying your podcast about your favorite band may actually be the greatest podcast in the world. It just so happens to be about the worst band ever.
You see, that feels like the absolute most like, I mean, because like that's not even a backhanded compliment. That's like a backhanded compliment that's quickly just taken back with another insult.
No, I genuinely don't think King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's good.
Dude, like, how?
But I think you're a good podcaster.
Oh my! This is not how I was envisioning this podcast to go. I was saying like we were going to engage in some friendly discourse about and I mean this is still friendly. We're still best friends, but like I was expecting something.
You're entitled to your opinion, but yes. So going back to my question.
Right. So what was your question again? I didn't.
So my question was, what would be your argument for saying that you're not just into the band for the social proof because they've got some kind of interesting things going on? And you're actually in it for the music.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think that's why I had a difficulty understanding your question, is that the people who are such fans of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are legitimately that much of fans. Like the music is actually that good. It hits. It gets it. Dude, you're. I mean, like I want to believe you're just busting my balls, and I mean quite frankly, okay. I think that's a very good use of your time because there's a whole lot going on.
So we've known each other for how long? Like you said, 12 years?
Yep.
I want to say it's about 3 years too long, but whatever. So we've spoken about music a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm always like, yeah, I like John Mayer, and you're like, you don't know real music. And then it wasn't until he was like with the Dead where you were like, all right, I'll open up a little. And I was like, even like I like Blink-182, and you're like, dude, you don't know music. And then all the bands you talk about is like Nirvana and like Soundgarden, and it's like all these bands that are like,
Well, so, yeah. I mean, because the thing is that like when we first became friends, I was a piece of shit, and I did not have good opinions or like good rationale for backing up my shitty opinions either, and like that's only changed like in the last 3 years. So I don't know what you want me to do, like move on from our friendship. I mean.
No, I'm just saying. Like, so you're agreeing that there were poser elements or less. Because Nirvana is one of those bands where.
But the thing is, I wouldn't call myself a poser as much as a snob. Like that. That's what I was.
Well, I don't want to get caught in semantics, but I'm basically saying people who are gravitating, like much how I think who people that like get lost in Grateful Dead because for the social proof rather than the actual content. And dude, that actually is pretty dark. Like Jerry Garcia went like full hermit mode because of that, right?
Yeah.
And And I'm just saying this band seems to have all the trappings of that, except the music just isn't as good. So the point that I'm trying to make.
Oh my God.
The point that I'm trying to make is, so you agree that you were a snob / poser at one point in your life. At what point? So, and you're saying it's changed just as you discovered King Gizzard. Because how long have you been into King Gizzard? Like 3 years?
Well, 3 years. Yeah, because I got into King Gizzard very, very shortly after I got into psychedelics, which gave me that new perspective that you see before you here today, and from here on out. I mean, who knows? Shit changes, but maybe I'll become a fascist next year. I don't know, but
well, you know, so that's, I guess. And for those listening, I want to say, like, I'm not saying the poser snob things is a bad thing, because the people that I know that are into psychedelics, I can certainly tell that they're first into like the image and what it's all about, and like the art and like the 60s vibe. And then they actually do it, and then they're legitimately into it, you know? But for like a couple of years, they're just like sort of about the aesthetic, you know?
right.
And the social proof.
Yeah, but for me, the aesthetic came well after. I mean, like, I was a corporate douche when I started.
I wasn't saying you specifically.
I thought you were furthering your thesis on on just like, oh well, you know, the reason you were doing psychedelics was because you wanted to be something else. You wanted to pose.
I'm just saying that people, you know, like the sort of love is all there is and Hakuna Matata and like we're all one. Like I feel like people that are into psychedelics are like sort of first into like, you know, good vibes only, you know, like that type of stuff. And then once they do psychedelics, like, so there's like a poser element to it before even actually doing it. So okay. I'm not saying
no, I'm sorry. It did take my narcissistic brain a hot second to realize that you were talking about like the general populace being,
yes,
and that they're different from me.
Well, I'm actually well, yeah, my point even about the fans of the band are not directed at you. It's directed at the fans who I'm assuming listen to this podcast because they got tired of listening to the band.
Yeah, you know, honestly, the viewership's been down. It's because they prefer the music. Like that, you know, survey says
lost souls. Anyone that would turn off your podcast to actually listen to the King Gizzard is a lost soul in my book and doesn't know.
I mean, personally, I
would rather know good content.
Oh my God, I would rather listen to Willoughby's Beach, which is King Gizzard's EP. I'd rather listen to that on repeat.
Then talk to me. Is that what you're
no. I then listen to me just bumble about, just and like my incoherent sentences and like how I just kind of trail off and like all my ADD shit. It's
that's my gripe with the community is that I think.
Well, what you're seeing about the community, or what you're saying about the community, is based on what you might be seeing online, which you really can't get an accurate gauge on the community.
No, I'm just comparing it to my travels with the Grateful Dead.
Oh, okay.
And just sort of seeing how this sort of, I mean, they're not as good, but they seem to be doing similar things.
I feel like I've been as good. I feel like I've been on the defensive for the majority of this podcast, and I would just like to. I'm just going to tone that down a little bit now that I realize this isn't a personal.
I'm not attacking you.
Yeah,
I'm not attacking you.
That you see that because that's what I thought this was going to be when you were just like, "Hey, let me come on your podcast. I'll talk. We'll talk giz." I'm just like, "You're just going to rip me to shreds," and that's so. I was well expecting that and basically trying to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's just self-destructive habits, but
I've only said kind things about this podcast and how good you are about it. It's just what you're talking about.
So let me get this straight. Would you say that Rush Limbaugh has a great radio show, but it's just the subject matter that he's talking about that it's just like, why Rush? Why is any of that necessary? Do you think Rush Limbaugh is a good guy?
Well, I don't want to have a stance on that.
Yeah, you don't want to have a stance on Rush Limbaugh?
Well,
I know you're not a very polarizing or polarized guy, but I mean, holy fuck, where does I mean, and listen, I know this is a steep jumping point, but from Rush Limbaugh to Hitler is very extreme, but at the same time, it's like they're equally bankrupt morally. Maybe
I don't know.
I mean, it's apples to oranges.
The thing is,
Rush Limbaugh's he's just got a pill problem. That's why he can't really do anything.
The thing is, I don't want to have a public stance on that.
Okay.
I will say I've heard even Bill Maher say kind things about him. Something to consider. If Bill Maher can say something nice about him, he may not be a complete devil, because they're on two opposite ends of the.
To a degree, I'm actually like not a huge Maher fan. I like there's some stuff that we don't have to get political. We can move on from this.
I'm just a fan of your podcast. I'm not a fan of Bill Maher, Rush Limbaugh, or King Gizzard. It's just your podcast.
Here's the thing. Maybe this episode should actually just be titled "I'm not a fan unless I'm on your podcast."
I'm not a fan unless I'm on your podcast about anyway. So I will say the majority of my gripe with King is on not their music per se. It's the type of person that's attracted to it, and is attracted to it for like social proof rather than the music itself. And it's a whole complicated thing, because everyone seeks out things because of social proof initially. Like there's no way around it. I'm just saying, it gets really dark when like the kid actually is showing up to the Dead and Company talking ill about John. It's like, what the hell are you even doing here? There are probably people tripping around you. You're not.
Yeah, well. So that guy's an asshole, but like that type of person does not make up the majority of the King Gizzard fan base.
Well, I don't know.
So that's the other reason I have this podcast, is like I want to get to know other fans.
All right, so here's
the vast majority of them have been really cool. I think they're maybe been like, I don't know. I'm fucking around. Like I've liked everybody that's been on this podcast.
Well, okay, so
some are cooler than others, and that's beyond my control. But I like everybody that I've met on here.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I guess this is a weird touchstone between the band and the folks the gripe that I have, and it really is more of like a mystical point than an actual hit. So. Don't if the band's listening, which you guys, come on, man, this guy's making a podcast better than your music, but presumably they're not. I think from what I can tell, there are like 15 people in the band, and there are 15 people that listen to this podcast. That can't be a coincidence, right?
God damn it. You got a point. Because here's the thing. There are 7 actual people on stage, plus the band's photographer, now videographer, so that's 9, and then they have their sound man, they have their visuals guy. So we're up to 11 members so far, but then they also have their own roadies. I think we've got 3 roadies.
And you're a one-man show, and it's so much better,
Well, listen, I will absolutely take that compliment, because I do get a lot of shit done, But yeah. So hire me, Giz. I'll be your fucking roadie, and just I'll suck on your teat. I don't
so that's why you got this podcast. All right, it's all coming out. Okay, so
I mean, listen. Here's the thing: if I did get a job from them, because based on, the exposure of this podcast, like I would absolutely take that. That'd be a very happy accident, but that is not at all what I was, actively trying to manifest.
Okay.
I'm not that diabolical.
Yeah. Well.
Actually, okay. Point taken.
Okay, so here's the one point. I guess the one gripe I have against the band, and it's such a subtle, stupid point. Besides that, they try too hard, and like they're trying. It's all interesting, but not necessarily good. So
I hate that I'm letting so much of this go uncontested. Like, even though I'm trying not to, I'm really. I mean, just your little jabs. Holy fuck, dude! Like,
so
you should get into boxing. Just
so
a couple quick ones in there. Just like, Giz sucks. They're not talented. Your podcast is better. That's the left hook.
Much better. But there's this. So there's this concept that divine art, which, before I even complete this point, I want to make it clear that King Giz is not. But there's this concept of divine art, right? You listening?
I'm listening.
Okay.
You can keep talking. I'm going to keep rolling my eyes and touching my forehead because this is like. Why am I giving you this platform? But please continue. I'm desperate for viewers.
Okay. So, well, this may be the podcast that alienates all the viewers. So there's this concept that divine art is created outside of time by the collective for the collective, and it unfolds through the artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think as humans, we all intuitively get that, because there are like certain songs by the Beatles that have just been around for so long that like they can't own those songs anymore, and they're just owned by the public sphere and anyone can cover them and yada yada yada. Right?
I mean, they can cover them, not necessarily release out on an album, but
I feel like there's some songs if you like songs by Beethoven and Mozart, like people can cover them and push them out, and like there's no like Beethoven trust that gets compensated.
Right. I mean,
they're just part of nature in some way that or reality that even the corporate lawyers have determined that it would be unfair for like someone to continue to make money off them. Right? So
I see your point.
So okay, so there's this concept of art is created outside of time by the collective and for the collective. And so when I ask you, like, give me like one album to listen to, and you recommend the album, I think it was called Quarters or like something.
Yeah, it's Quarters.
And you will like listen to this album. It's so cool. Each song is like the same length. And I'm like,
I mean, like, okay, listen,
like you're selling me the gimmick of King Gizzard right now, not the music, right? Because it would be like, if you agree that art is created outside of time, it is, I guess the question for the band is, when did they decide to make each song the same length, at the beginning, or were they all coming together and then it sort of shifted to that? Because if it was at the beginning, then I would say people that got into the band because of that gimmick, it's a little it's a little, you're not really in it for the music, you're in it for the gimmick, at least at the beginning. And then the fact that you're trying to get me into the band through that gimmick, it really is like, man, this band, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, put out an album, and then they're putting out nursery rhyme songs. It's like, why can't they just put out like a good pop song, and then I'll pay attention? All these gimmicks, all these things that are so not about the music.
Well, the thing is, like, I would argue it really is about the music. So, and you do bring a good point. Like, like, yeah, I did kind of sell you on that album based on the gimmick of it, on the theme of it, but they are a thematic band, you know, that's a very, I mean, that's just who they are. They're into themes, and they pursue them, you know, they pursue each theme, or combination of themes per record. Um, and
Yeah, I mean, I would just say,
but like it's executed really well. I mean, like listen to
that's what I'm saying. Like I understand. I'm not seeking
listen to the new
recommendations on that.
single that came out. It's pretty. Like honestly, it's something that I think you'll like. The lyrics in it are fantastic, and I mean that's the other thing that I like about that I, that I love so much about this band is how prolific their lyrics are, and how deep they can get, and also just randomly silly when you know you least expect it.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, like, when it comes to art and creativity, I think and that's why I say it's really a question that only the band can answer. When they come up with like these thematic things, you know, like when they come up, like, let's put out a song that each song is like 12 minutes or whatever. It's less likely to be divine art if they led with that, and it actually is closer on the continuum to something like advertising, where they're trying to force something with their amazing execution, you know.
So, fun fact about the recording of Quarters is that the I mean, I don't know if the concept to have each song be 10 minutes and 10 seconds was I don't know when along the timeline that was introduced, but what I do know about the recording session was that it was very much jammy, and they were basically just I mean improvising on pretty much every song. So I have a feeling that it's just the stuff they did in post production, or like, you know, at the very end. I don't know what post production is, but you know, I figured it's what they were doing with the editing that got the tracks up to 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Like that wasn't. I can't imagine that would be the exact thing going
Sure,
into it.
but I'm just saying. So then, I guess the point that I'm making is, you're like really into this band and you're trying to get me into it, and you recommend the album. It's like, dude,
Well,
it's really cool. Each song's the same line. Like, what are we even talking about here? You know?
well, okay, so that's the other thing is like King Gizzard, because of their album's themes, uh, because they're all thematic, they pretty much have like I would say it's basically a requirement that if you're listening to King Gizzard, that you listen to each album all the way through. I mean, obviously, there are times when I'll, you know, just listen to individual songs, but it's just the actual, like, the journey that they take you on as a listener. Like if you allow yourself to just like lose the judgment of your perceived, you know, pretentiousness or whatever, it's like just flow with the music. And I think you'll
I
be able to
have
see what I'm
tried.
talking about.
You know, I have listened to songs, and there was one that was a blatant ripoff of a Led Zeppelin song.
Yeah, it was which was God is in the Rhythm, and we established it's a better song than Dire Maker.
Only because Led Zeppelin has, and I know creativity is tough, but I don't know if Led Zeppelin gets a pass on their plagiarism. But maybe they do. I don't really have an opinion there. But
I mean, I honestly, they do get a pass because like they're
they're
still
amazing.
uncanceled. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, that's I understand the album and the journey, and I get it. But it seems to me that they're trying to be inaccessible on the onset, and like, you maybe once you push through that barrier, then it's like a great experience. Um, and I actually, you know, I take to sort of tie it back to John Mayer, because like, he actually does put out great albums, and it's almost like a different way of, like, you think it's only pop music,
mhm.
but then once you listen to the entire album, he's like basically kept blues alive. He's kept country alive, and he's sort of also, I would view him as like the most mainstream, like a really talented guitarist today. So he's also kept the guitarist alive, but he's not trying. I feel like he's not putting the walls up that I feel like King Gizzard is like, no, you need to be a particular type of person. Like we're not, I don't know. I guess
they're very much not that at all. I mean, listen, listen to an interview with them.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's just, I'm just saying my perception of it is that it's like, it's either they're trying too hard with everything they're doing. And I don't feel about any of this strongly. I think a lot of my opinions are just formed because of you introducing me to this man.
Yeah, and constantly
and so
contradicting me.
When I say the band is trying too hard, I wonder what I'm really saying,
Okay. I mean, I know what you're trying to say is that I'm trying too hard, but
no, but this podcast is great, man. It's really
God,
all right.
Oh man. I mean, there's a lot wrong with what you said. And like specifically the inaccessibility part. I mean, they are such an inviting band, but like the parts that you find inaccessible seem to be just based on your perception that they're trying to
that
too
one
hard.
Song?
No, yeah, which one?
So there was that one song, I don't know what it's called, but it was like basically it was like a guitar, it was like da 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 da, and someone was like voicing over it as well. So it was,
yeah, that was the River.
Voicing the solo over the guitar solo. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to it and I texted to you, I was like, I don't know if it's good, it's interesting. Like I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And
yeah.
And I think I actually said that it sounds uncomfortable to me. And then you texted me back saying that, yeah, it was definitely weird at first when I heard it as well. Yeah. I didn't think I feel like you echoed saying like, yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily good, but it catches my attention.
Well, that was my initial perception of it.
Right.
And then it's, what it is an acquired taste, and
but I feel like that's what they're trying to capture your attention by being interesting rather than accessible.
So as an intellectual person, like extremely capable of deep thought and introspection and philosophical thought, I mean, how is it that you would find interesting music to be just a real bummer?
I didn't say bummer. I just said
but
excessive.
I said it.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Oh my God.
But I'm just saying, but this is the reason why I'm not into the band yet. Like I just haven't found like that one song that opened it all up for me, which was my experience with the Grateful Dead as well. And was also my experience with country music when we all went through our I love all music except country.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's fair. That's fair. And you do bring up a very good point that you can't force anything down somebody else's throat. So,
and if you lead with like each song in the album is the same length, I'm like, man, this is not even about the music anymore. This is just Poserville over here.
Yeah. So I understand that being your perception of it. However, I mean the song, The River, the video that goes with it, it's just lovely. It's magical. But
disagree.
All right then. I mean,
you're entitled to your own opinion.
Yeah. I feel like we're going in circles here, but I do want to say like, as much as I want to say you should really just sit down with their entire discography for a day and just go through all 16 or I guess 17 albums that are on Spotify. You should which for the listeners that includes Willoughby's Beach and Chunky Shrapnel. So yeah, I think that would do you some good, but at the same time, like, you can only do that on your own accord.
Well, dude,
it has to be your idea.
I asked you for like I was going to clean my room, and I asked you, all right, I'm going to listen to like whatever you tell me to listen to, and I think it was like a live album, and like it was just like death metal, and I was like, well,
that was chunky.
I was like, this was not what I wanted to clean my room to.
No, I agree. That was a bad call. But also, I had only intended for you to actually rent the documentary and watch it.
The listeners need to hear that I have tried to listen, and I still think they're inaccessible.
Right, and I mean, granted that the chunky suggestion was not a good one, because I intended for that to be like when I told you to listen to Chunky Shrapnel, I was saying like, hey, you should rent this on Vimeo and watch the documentary, because it's incredible.
Yeah, I should have done that, but
because I agree, the album without the context of the documentary is totally inaccessible, or maybe not totally inaccessible.
See, once again, man, so it's not about the music, it's about the MTV-ness of it all, right?
No, it with a live album that where they do a lot of experimental stuff in the middle. It's because the thing, it's a live album / soundtrack to the documentary. They're trying to push the envelope with everything that they do. So what you consider pretentiousness, they consider ambition.
No, I think they're just efforting too hard, not necessarily pretentiousness.
I mean, like, here's the thing. You are the most zen person that I know. So I can understand, like, whoa, you're going to record 5 albums in a year and release them? Oh my God. Like, no, it's just, that's what.
Well, if
you're leaving yourself no time to rest.
If all 200 members of the King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are listening, I issued this challenge. Like, you guys, okay, so you've done death metal, you've seemed to have done like psychedelic rock, you've done nursery rhymes. Here's my one challenge: just put out an album of just like great pop songs. Let's see.
What nursery rhymes do they do, or are you just being?
Didn't you? I feel like you told me when we were at Amoeba in Los Angeles, you told me that they dropped an album that was all nursery rhymes.
No, they dropped an album that I mean, I'm trying to figure out what
because you took me to like the King Gizzard section.
Yeah, I had to show you all the albums.
And it was a total bummer for me.
But hey, you know, then we got to go to the other sections of the store, and you got to see a Bill Hicks album. That's cool.
Dude, you know what's crazy? Like, when we left that place, my Spotify account beeped me saying, you should listen to Paul McCartney live at Amoeba. So I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Spotify like knows where I am all the time, and it's like pushing me based on.
I mean, yeah, you allowed them, you know, your location.
I think they've figured out not to push me any King Giz stuff, but
yeah, well, because they know they wouldn't be able to make they know that you would quit the app.
It's so bad. Yeah, it's so wrong that their music's on the same app as like the Beatles, you know.
By the way, you can stream this podcast on Spotify, as well as my other podcast on Spotify, and the one that I've had to, you know, take a hiatus from with quarantine and everything, also on Spotify. But King Gizzard apparently isn't worthy of being on the Spotify platform. God. I'm really trying for this podcast to be like a really good time, and to end on a high note, because we've been going for, you know, close to an hour, which I think is frankly too long. Like you said about our friendship, I'd say this has gone on about 15 minutes too long, probably.
Well, it seems like we need to both end the podcast and our friendship. So.
Yeah, well, Akshay, it's been swell knowing you. Thanks for coming on my podcast to end it all.
All right, I'll call you to debrief.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. For everybody listening at home, we are gonna start another. I'm actually just gonna stop this recording, and then we're just gonna hash everything out and make sure that we're on the same page. Akshay, thank you so much for coming on this podcast, and I trust that we're still friends.
And hey, I just want to say it's been 12 years, and I think this may be the first, like even though it's been 12, I don't think there are any photos of us together or anything.
No.
So
there's like one awkward selfie on my phone that we took at the bar, and and that was a joke. And then I asked you when we were at Amoeba if you wanted to take a selfie, and you're just like, we got to just cherish the moment. We got to live in the moment, man. And so that was your call. Yeah. Excellent, spot on impression.
Well, I hope this podcast makes it to Spotify, despite how you may have perceived it.
Spotify seems like a pretty chill company. I mean, they did sign Joe Rogan to to that deal, and he can do whatever he wants. So anyway, take it easy, fans listening, and Akshay, I'll be right back with you.